Hi, my name is Nov. Unfortunately, a little over than 1 week ago I caught COVID and I still have some symptoms, but I am feeling a lot better and I can finally start making videos again. So here I am. Today I bring you guys a video that will feature 3 mandatory Lost Ark mechanics that you absolutely must understand if you want to be good at Lost Ark PvE. If you find this video helpful, please do give it a like, and also don't forget to subscribe for more Lost Ark content. The 3 Lost Ark mechanics that I will be featuring in this video are the counter mechanic, the stagger check mechanics, and overall just stagger damage, as well as weak point damage. Let us actually start with the most simple one, the counter mechanic. In order for a successful counter to happen, there are 3 key things that are required. First, you need an enemy that can actually be countered, and you can tell that an enemy can be countered if they have this blue highlight around them while they are preparing an attack. When the blue highlight appears and during their next attack, the enemy can be countered. To land the counter, you need an ability that can counter. So you will need to look at your abilities and determine which ability can be used for countering, because every single class has at least one ability that can land a counter attack. In my case, Gunslinger's counter attack is called Last Request, and you can tell that it's a counter because of this line in the skill interface. However, using the right ability in itself is not enough to successfully land the counter, because you can only land the counter from right in front of the enemy. That means that your positioning is going to be key in landing a counter attack. So landing the counter is not going to be easy unless you are prepared for the mechanic. To make it easier to land a counter attack, you can use runes that make the casting speed faster, so it takes your character less time to prepare the attack. And you can also look for tripods that make the animation shorter or give you more attack speed, or maybe give you a dash that makes it so you can get into position much easier than without the tripod. Using all these tools to your advantage should make landing counters consistently much easier. If even with utilizing all these things you still seem to struggle with landing counterattacks, one more thing that you can do is try to stay in position when you're expecting the enemy to launch a counterable attack, and also save your cooldown on your counter skill, so that as soon as the enemy is launching the counterable attack, you can successfully land your counter. If you manage to land the counter attack, then the boss will be vulnerable for the next few seconds, giving you an opening to maybe use your awakening or your burst. And that's pretty much it about the counter mechanic. This mechanic appears in pretty much all Guardian raids, and in some cases some of the Abyssal dungeons, and later on in Abyssal raids and Legion raids. Don't be scared if it takes you time getting used to this counter mechanic, because some classes' counter abilities are incredibly hard to land. Just take your time, get used to your ability and all the mechanics in the game. There is absolutely no need to rush. Next up we have another very important mechanic, and that is the stagger mechanic. Most of your skills have some level of stagger on them, and you can check it in your skills UI. In my case, my class, the Gunslinger, has most of its stagger damage on their shotgun abilities. As you can see, my shotgun abilities have mid to high stagger damage on most of them. To get more stagger damage on these abilities, you can use your runes that you can obtain from various sources. Most boss type enemies have a stagger or impairment bar under the HP bar. You can deplete this bar by dealing enough stagger damage to the boss. In some cases you are required to break the stagger bar of the boss enemy, for example in this Guardian raid, before you can actually start dealing decent damage to the boss. So knowing which abilities of yours deal decent stagger damage is very important, because later on in the game there are a bunch of stagger damage check or impairment check mechanics in raids, and these have a very small window for you to deal enough stagger damage to successfully complete the mechanic. If you feel like your class is not providing enough stagger damage, or you just want to ensure that you successfully clear the mechanic, you can also use whirlwind grenades, as they deal high stagger damage. There are some cases, like for example Helgaia, where you don't really get too much of an indication that currently there is a stagger check going on, because when Helgaia is trying to transform to her next phase of her 3 phases, she actually starts collecting energy. The animation looks like this, and this is Well, it's pretty much a stagger check, because if you deal enough stagger damage to stagger Helgaia, then you can make it so she can't actually transform into her next phase. So technically this is also a stagger check. If you fail in dealing enough stagger damage, then she proceeds to her next phase, making the fights a lot more difficult. Again, if you're struggling with dealing enough stagger damage, then you can use a whirlwind grenade to deal even more stagger damage. And lastly, we have weak point damage. If you have looked at your skills, you might have seen a line that says that the ability has weak point damage. Some classes have more abilities that can deal weak point damage, other classes do not. In my case, the Gunslinger doesn't have too many abilities that can actually deal weak point damage. Only some of my shotgun and some of my sniper skills do, and they are all level 1. So in my case, whenever a weak point damage check mechanic happens, I should be using destruction bombs most of the time, as they deal very high weak point damage, and they can make you contribute towards the mechanic much more efficiently. Still, just using the grenade will not be enough to pass these mechanics, so you still need to be aware of which ones of your abilities deal weak point damage and which ones do not. These mechanics appear mostly in Guardian raids, but also in some abyssal dungeons. When a weak point damage check happens, a crosshair will appear somewhere over the enemy. Upon successfully staggering the enemy, the crosshair will appear over some of their body parts, and by dealing enough weak point damage to it, you can actually destroy that body part, and that will make the encounter much easier to handle. Also, just for example, in this abyssal dungeon, the boss spawns these mages, and you actually need to deal weak point damage to them before you can start dealing normal damage. And if you cannot deal enough weak point damage to break their shield, at least not in time, then the boss will go ahead and wipe your entire party. So again, knowing which one of your abilities can deal weak point damage and using them at the right time and at the right place alongside with your destruction bombs is very important, and utilizing this will make you a much better PvE player in Lost Ark. And that's pretty much it about these 3 mechanics. If you think that I missed something, then please go ahead and let me know in the comment section, and I will pin your comments. I am sorry for my voice. Even though I feel a lot better now, I am still kind of ill with COVID, so it's a bit difficult for me to record videos, but believe me when I say this, I am trying my best. With all that said, thank you guys very much for your patience over these last 2 weeks. A very big video regarding my overall progress so far in the game will be coming hopefully on Wednesday, and it will be an epic video. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. I am working very hard on it, and it's going to be amazing. I really hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please give it a like. It means the world to me and it helps me so much. And if you already did, then thank you very much. If you are still struggling with tier 1 upgrade mats, then maybe you could check out my last video where I talked about where you can get a lot of tier 1 upgrade mats and how I actually got tier 2 without needing to do much grinding at all. Alright, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.